Drivers, start your engines!
Pick the pace car! What for? Because you hit every other damn thing out there, I want you to be perfect!
When I'm driving, I got a guy on the radio who talks to me. It's him, but he talks to me.
Well, I wanna be a race car driver, pretty girls eating from my hand, yeah. Wanna live a life of fun and danger, no sweating working for the man, alright.
Hey, race fans, welcome to the Hoobazoo Radio Network and welcome to Drafting the Circuits. My name is Frank Santoroski. I'll be your host for the next hour as we talk about racing. Joining me in the studio, Richard Youden and Luis Torres. Guys, how we doing?
We're good. We're good, thanks.
Pretty good. That's pretty much all I got to say is pretty good. Even that is an understatement.
That's an understatement. Yeah, Luis is just returned from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway where he spent the last couple of weeks. So good to have you back, Luis. Good to have you on the show. I do want to apologize to all our listeners that we didn't produce a show last week. We did have some unforeseen circumstances that prevented us from taping a show last week, and I apologize to anybody that tried to tune in and find it. But we are back, and we've got a lot to talk about, starting with that Indy 500 that you were at, Luis, and a lot of great stories coming out of this Indy 500. Number one, we have a four-time winner, and that's 30 years from the last time we saw a four-time winner. We have a winner who's incredibly popular. This is an incredibly popular win. We saw a fantastic race, where the couple of aero tweaks that they did made it, a lot less single file. Yeah, there was some single file running, but there was a lot more passing in there than we saw last year, the first year with the screens. We also had the fewest cautions ever, the most cars running at the finish ever at the 500, the most cars on the lead lap ever at the 500. And then we had the fastest 500 in history at over 190 miles an hour race average, which is, not the fastest 500 mile ever, but the fastest Indy 500. So just an awful lot to unpack here. But, before I let you guys jump in, I want to talk a little bit about this young fella who at 46 years old won his fourth Indy 500. Helio Castroneves. And I think, the knock on Helio is that he's never won a championship. So, I think at this point in his career, that's not going to happen. And I don't think it's going to hamper his legend, but certainly this particular race did a lot to really cement his legacy. Number one, joining the Four-Timers Club. And this win did not fall into his lap. There was no controversy surrounding the win. He didn't have a dominant car in qualifying. He had a very good car in qualifying. He didn't dominate the race, but he won this thing. And if you watch those last 20 or so laps and just really pay attention to what Helio is doing, you're seeing a guy who's a master of his craft. If you watch that, what he's kind of playing a little cat and mouse with young Alex Palou, who's up there leading the race, feeling that he has the fastest car, feeling that he's got a very good shot to win this thing. And Helio is, they dice a little bit, pass, make a pass back, swap the lead back and forth. But if you really watch what Helio's doing, is he's not so much playing cat and mouse with young Alex Palou. What he's doing is he's forcing Alex Palou to show him every defensive move he has in his arsenal. Helio is studying the guy so he knows exactly when to make his move. And that's the difference between a guy in his second or third year and a guy who's been doing this for 20 years. And it's easy to see when you watch him, why this guy's won the thing 4 times, why he's finished second a number of times, why he's finished in the top 10 in Indianapolis, I believe 9 times. Truly, truly a masterful performance. I was very impressed with Helio. And then the best part was the victory celebration, because nobody is more emotional and animated than Helio Castroneves, and the fans just eat that up. And Helio loves Indianapolis. And somebody made a quote, and I can't remember exactly who it was, but they said, Helio loves Indianapolis, and the more you love this place, the more it loves you back. And my God, that's absolutely true when you consider Helio Castroneves and what we saw this past weekend. So I don't want to dominate the show, and I don't want to make the Helio Castroneves Appreciation Society, but he deserves every bit of appreciation after that drive. So, Louise, you were there. What are your thoughts on this race? I thought it was one for the ages, but I'm sure there's a few fans out there who will find something to bitch about, because that's what IndyCar fans do.
Well, yeah. Speaking of talking about letting Palou try to play defense, I saw one literally complaining about how Palou was quote unquote dangerously cutting Helio's toe, or as some folks in the NASCAR line would refer as a draft in IndyCar, they call it a toe, where he was going all the way down to the area where pit road is. But as you saw, Castroneves let it play out, and he got by him. Palou did the same thing. It was a nice trading back and forth. And it was at one point when Palou was in the lead, we thought game over. I was thinking to myself, yep, I think Palou's got this one. But Castroneves, even maybe some lap traffic, wasn't going to be denied that day. I think he's learned a lot. And he even said in the media center that what happened in 2017 or even a couple of years before that was in the back of his mind, that he was not going to let this one slip away from him again. Because Castroneves might as well have more than 4 or 500s by now had 36 went in his favor. And I think for this
he lost 2 of them by less than a second in 2014 and 2017. Yeah.
I think this one he was just not going to be denied at all. He showed real quick speed. When he put it in the Fast 9, I was genuinely surprised in a way. Maybe I should have been, but people were talking about Meyer Shank, like, we talked about all season, even in the off season, that Helio going to Meyer Shank will be good for them because more resource, more data for Jack Harvey. Harvey had a pretty noble race, not great per se, but Helio was just right out of the gate. You knew he wanted this badly. It was all about Scott Dixon, Colton Herta, the whole week. Andretti Autosport, maybe up and down. Team Penske struggling in qualifying. Chip Ganassi owning the Fast 9. But Helio Castroneves quietly was in the dark horse end. He wasn't the quote-unquote favorite. He was just in the mix the entire time, and boy, he really showed it. And when the restart happened, because it looked like Palou, he was probably going to do something that Fernando Alonso couldn't do for Spain, is win the 500. But similar to 30 years ago, the guy you thought they had won without being by the guy that ultimately went out to win 4 Indy 500s. 91, it was Mears beating Michael Andretti. In a similar way, Helio Castroneves beat Alex Palou. Of course, Palou is in his sophomore IndyCar season. By that, in 91, Michael was already slowly established to become a champion and an icon in the making.
Yeah, Michael, in fact, won the championship that year. It was a case of the master, sizing up the student and taking advantage there, which is exactly what Mears did with Michael Andretti. Although not quite as close to the end of the race as this one, but yeah, that one was a fun one to watch, as was the one this past weekend.
Mm-hmm. And the thing about it with that race is that you think Dixon was not, after he held up the whole field, I thought they were going to wad it up the whole thing, because some of the talks that I had with a couple of the media colleagues, we were curious who's going to be the first one out. Some people were thinking it might have been Rinus VeeKay, because him in the front row, raw, wild, and unpredictable. That wasn't the case. In fact, VeeKay showed up to play and held his own real well. Connor Daly ended up leading the most laps of that thing, leading 100 of the 500 miles, 40 out of 200 laps wise. He really held his own quite well. It had not been for a couple circumstances, including when he hit that tire from Graham Rahal, where it damaged the front nose. They didn't took it off; they kept it. Maybe
I didn't quite understand that move, because we've seen them change the nose on an IndyCar rather quickly before. And Richard, maybe you know a little more on this, but the thing that I read, or the quote that I read, and I believe it was coming from Daly or one of his team members, was that they had damaged the adjuster, which would have taken a whole lot longer to change the wing, and the risk versus reward with the track position lost would have just taken too long. So Richard, Tell us exactly about this adjuster on the wing and how that affects the ability to change the wing quickly.
Yeah, so you'll see in both IndyCar and Formula One during a pit stop, you'll see somebody going there and adjust the wing angle at the front, and that's to adjust the downforce levels of the front wing and adjust the balance of the car. To determine understeer, oversteer, tight, loose, however you want to phrase it. But the more front wing you give it, the more grip you get at the front, and the more the tail one of the slides that gives you oversteer. If you reduce the angle at the front, the front wants to push because it's got less grip, so you get understeer there. You get oversteer when the back wants to turn in. And I think what you have to realize with this impact, this wasn't like an end plate of a wing coming off because a couple of cars had touched going through a slow chicane or something. This was a massive tire impact, 150, probably nearly going into 200 miles an hour onto the nose of that car. You didn't really know what damage had been done in there. So if you'd sort of jacked the car up and tried to take the nose off, you may not have got it back on. Yeah, it wasn't an ideal situation, and it certainly hampered their cause going forward. But it is what it is, and they probably made the right call there, not trying to replace that nose section there.
Yeah, because realistically, the mounting points for the nose cone could have been damaged as well. It may not have
exactly.
They could have took it off. And
if you take it
now
off,
we got no nose on the car. Yeah.
Exactly.
I got you.
It wasn't ideal, but hey, it gets you to the finish, doesn't it?
It did. Yeah. And good day for Connor. I mean, again, very, very popular guy in Indianapolis. He's from nearby Noblesville. The crowd was very, very loud when he took the lead, cheering him on. Great day for him. I mean, Connor is a guy that he's a fan favorite. People talk about him a lot. He really doesn't have the results to back it up over the years, but it was a fine drive from him. And I do believe that between him and VK, they really controlled the early portions of the race. But I believe their problem was more the fact that the Chevrolets were burning more fuel than the Hondas, and they were just losing ground on the long runs that we had in that race. Because there were only 2 points of caution during that race.
Which was weird because it's been the opposite at the previous races, like with the GMR Grand Prix. It was the Chevys that had a little bit more of a better gas mileage with VK when he won over Grosjean and the Dale Coyne Rick Ware Honda.
Yeah, I guess when they trim it out for Speedway, I guess they're burning more horsepower. I don't know. We're burning more fuel. But either way, it was a really good day for the Carpenter guys. They didn't have the result at the end of the day they like to see, but they certainly showed well. They got their sponsor's name on TV. Their guys got to lead for a while, control the early portion of the race. And another guy that we talked about somewhat was young Alex Palou, who now takes the point lead after Dixon's problems, which we'll get into in a moment. But just another fine drive from this young Spaniard. This kid continues to impress, and he's got to be, one of the favorites for the champion now, along with, Dixon I think Dixon dropped to second or third. But right now, I believe like the top 5 guys are all separated by less than 1 win in the points table. Yeah. So
Dixon is currently second. I think at one point before he got his lap back, he was 5th.
He was 5th. Yeah.
He was. Yeah.
The points as they run. Yeah. So, but let's talk about Dixon. So it was an interesting situation. And I think some folks don't fully understand the emergency pit stop rule, which is it's a little convoluted, but I'll attempt my best to explain it. But so what had happened was once the green flag pit stops began to commence, several guys went in to get the pits. Dixon, getting good mileage, has stayed out, as did Alexander Rossi, had not made his pit stop yet. Stefan Wilson came in to make his pit stop, found that his brake pedal went straight to the floor, ended up spinning the car, and pretty much blocking the entrance to pit lane, which brought out a caution, which stranded both Dixon and Rossi out on the track, desperately needing fuel. So they had to invoke the pits are closed, but you can if you have a flat tire or some sort of damage to the car that can be repaired quickly, or are running out of fuel, you can pull in to the pits. You're only allowed to hook up fuel for, I think it's 2 seconds.
2 seconds.
Two seconds, yeah. Just enough to get you back out there till the pits are open. So it essentially forces you into a second stop. So you've got to make 2 stops there if you do the emergency stop. Now, what had happened for both Dixon and Rossi was they both ran the car entirely out of fuel, which caused a vapor lock, which makes the car quite difficult to restart. It doesn't start right back up. It's like, think about taking your lawnmower and trying to spray some starting fluid in it after it's been sitting in your garage all. It's about like that. Doesn't quite want to start. So that put both those guys a lap down. And to his credit, Dixon was able to make the lap up, but Rossi was nowhere the rest of the day. And Rossi finds him 15th in points, behind Castroneves, who's only ran the one race. And Rossi's luck just goes from bad to worse. But Dixon, as always, made the best of it. And he came close to having a shot at getting back up front had there been like a late yellow, what he was trying to attempt on fuel strategy.
Yeah.
But the fact the long green flag runs didn't play out his way. And another thing that people don't mention is Takuma Sato came dangerously close to winning this as well.
Yeah, or Felix Rosenquist.
Rosenquist, yeah. If there was a late caution, those guys were still out front. If they'd have had a caution that had taken to the end of the race to clean up, game over. So,
from your vantage point, Frank, when they showed it on the video scope or the television, did they show Rosenquist and those guys out front like a double screen, or was just delicately focused on Helio and Palou the entire time?
Focused on Helio, Palou, and Award, and Simon Pagenaud, who was bringing up the rear and catching them quickly. Matter of fact, Pagenaud did manage to get around Award and finish third. A few more laps, and Pagenaud would have been in the mix for the win. But no, they didn't even put a camera on Felix or Sato.
So pretty much they've been biffled. For those who don't know what I mean by biffled, the 2016 Talladega race, Biffle had like a half a lap of a lead, but they didn't show him much until finally NBC decided to show Biffle on one screen and the pack on the other one. Everybody's thinking, Biffle's not going to make it. Biffle's not going to win. They're going to catch us. Like, if the caution didn't come out when it did, Biffle would probably have been okay. He probably would have won that race at 16 in my book. We'll never know. But I was curious because I think from the little screens at the track that they've added over the years, it's pretty much the same thing. They just show the pack much more than Rosenquist and Sato and Dixon.
Exactly. Now, Richard, you've been quiet over there.
I try my best.
Which is my favorite thing to say. So I know you obviously watched this race. You've got some impressions of it. So what are some of your takeaways from this 500 race?
Yeah, I thought it was an entertaining race in many ways. I know some people will sort of say it's a boring race. Well, they didn't even thought it was boring. This was only one real accident. Unfortunately, that's what people do watch these things for. But no, I thought it was a good race. I did feel, really sorry for Rossi and Dixon there. They were being smart. They were doing the fuel saving strategy, which would, in the long run, be beneficial, and they got caught out by it. So I really did feel, sorry for those guys there. But excuse me, Castroneves winning, fantastic. I think it really showed. There's an art to this racing, and there was me a couple of weeks ago when we were on the show, maybe criticizing some of the older guys in the sport. But Indianapolis is one of those unique places in a way. I think if you're going to win it, you're either going to win it in your first couple of years or after about 10 goes. I think there's that lull in the middle from most of the guys where they get bitten by it and they become wary of it. And if you've only been doing it a couple of years, you've got that sort of ignorance, if you like. And then if you've been doing it more than 10 years, you've got the experience. So, but I thought it was a really good event. I mean, I know we've discussed this in previous years, and I'm going to get, on my high horse here again about this, on my soapbox. I really do wonder and question the whole makeup of the 500 and the way it's obviously the pinnacle of the series, for sure, but to my mind, it detracts from the other events and the other races. I think if you're, looking at purely a championship standpoint, I think it puts a skew, if you like, on the series. And I don't think any race should ever be double points. I think that's a terrible idea. Because at the end of the day, a race is a race. And I know IndyCar is structured slightly different because it does put all of its eggs in one basket with the 500. But at the end of the day, your Castroneves has won 4 Indy 500s. That's a fantastic achievement. But, in a couple of years' time, when he does pack it in all together, he still doesn't have a championship. That I think takes him out of the equation that a lot of people are putting him in. Yeah, he's won one race 4 times, and it's a very special race, but it's just one race still.
He does have an instant championship, but of course I know what you get. He doesn't
sure.
have the IndyCar championship compared to the other 4-time winners. Well,
and if you're a multi, what would he swap? 4 championships and no 500s, or 4 500s and no championship? I think I know the answer to that.
Yeah,
from a driver's standpoint.
Yeah, I think the 4 500s. I think any driver with a championship that doesn't have a 500 win would gladly swap a championship for a 500 win. And if you just need to look at some of the guys that have won the 500 and what it's done for them career wise, would anybody give a rat's ass who Eddie Cheever was this day and age if he didn't win the 500? And the other one,
honestly, who has anyways, because 98
this is true. Okay.
Race, yeah, but 98 race nobody talks about really at all.
Okay, so let me bring up this guy here. Okay, here's a guy that is considered an Indy legend. He's in 2 different halls of fame. Okay, but he has 7 career wins. 2 of them happen at Indianapolis, and he's never finished any higher than 6th in the championship. But he has instant name recognition, and this guy I'm talking about is Arie Luyendyk. He's considered one of the legends of the Speedway, and he's never even come close to a championship. But those 2 Indy wins, and the record speed and the couple of poles he's got there puts him in rare company.
But was he more of an oval specialist though? Luyendyk, he was more of an oval specialist at one point, no?
I think all his wins came on ovals.
Yes,
but would you put Takuma Sato in the Hall of Fame? I mean, don't get me wrong. As I say, I've worked with Takuma. He's a great guy.
Yeah, Takuma Sato's his stats are almost the same as Luyendyk. 7 career wins.
I honestly forgot
2 or 3 less.
Yeah, he's won plenty of poles as well. A large majority of them were with Foyt, which I totally forgot he won poles, let alone most of them coming from the Foyt days.
But you look at, and I know we've discussed this previous years when I've been on this, and it really is something that sort of gets me going a little bit, and maybe it shouldn't do. But you take the other sports that have marquee events, for example, Super Bowl or the playoffs or anything. They're always, and I can't think of any other sport, the climax of the season, the crowning. Whoever wins that event wins the championship. That is their pinnacle of sport. IndyCar is completely different. It's creating this, and I don't know if it's negative to the sport in the long run. Obviously, it's great because it does attract a lot of publicity for this 2 or 3 weeks, where it's rather month of May, as they call it, where it's running. But I just really do think it takes away from the rest of the season. Your average guy on the street, not average, but somebody who's a motorsport fan, who probably doesn't watch every IndyCar, could tell you who wins the Indy 500, but couldn't tell you who won the championship. And I just think that's wrong. I think that there is more to it than that. I think you dilute and almost discredit the rest of the championship, and I don't think that's right.
No, that's always been the problem with with Indy. It's older than the series. It's older than any series that sanctioned it. It's been around that long. It has that event status, and even if you look at the TV ratings, they said the Indy 500 pulled 5.5 million viewers.
Yeah.
But when your average IndyCar race is, less than a
1
million.
point something, isn't it?
Yeah, they're less than a million sometimes. If it's on NBCSN, and they might get a 1.1 million if they're on the network. So it's.
But why
it's,
don't?
But I don't know. I don't know what the answer to that is.
Yeah, I mean that's looking. If you look at it in the bigger picture, the racing arguably at some of the other IndyCar events is better than the 500. Why does it get drawn? Maybe at the end of the day, the Indy 500 is going to draw its crowd, whether NBC or IndyCar as a racing series don't do anything to promote it. It's going to draw crowds because it's just there. Maybe they need to put that effort into other events and build that up, and not just, sort of put, as I said, you asked it earlier, put all your eggs in one basket. And this isn't, this is because I love IndyCar racing. I love watching it. I think it's a fantastic series, and I think it has so much potential. But I honestly, genuinely believe that the actual 500 is detrimental to the success of the sport, because it takes attention away from the other 20 races or whatever it may be a season. And I don't know. And the fact that, the race, it's not a race weekend, it's a race month, you look at every successful sport out there that is marketable, and one of the things they have is consistency. The NFL schedule is pretty set. NBA, NHL, look at the Formula One calendar. It's the same every week. NASCAR to a certain extent is the same every week. Again, they have the Daytona 500 thing, which is probably on a similar line. But it's, people like uniformity and regularity. They don't get this whole, why is this one so different? And then they get turned off by the other stuff.
All right, you're off the soapbox now?
Nope, I'm still here.
Okay.
That's gonna say.
Yeah, but I mean, those are all good points. But again, I don't know what the fix is to that, because you don't want to. You don't want to diminish the 500. And when you start, there's so many old timers that will tell you, that people can't stand that we're down to 1 week into qualifying instead of 2. They don't like the fact that the bump day is on Sunday, not Saturday. And any little thing, people tradition, or
the Grand Prix just existing.
Oh yeah, people hate the fact that the Grand Prix exists, even though I always find it to be quite entertaining and a lot of fun.
It's gotten better over time. It's just circumstantial and all of that stuff, but it plays itself out. It's just at the start, it was like it needed to build some sort of identity.
Exactly. But I mean, there needs to be more focus on the other races. And that all comes down to, IndyCar has been through how many sanctioning bodies over the 100 some years. None of them have really been successful at it. I mean, USAC in the 70s before the CART split did a pretty good job. They filled up places like Ontario with as many fans as they filled up Indy with. CART in the 90s did a nice job of getting people into racetracks, and then the split kind of ruined everything. And then even the Indy 500 was, nothing to speak of for a couple of years until the bigger teams started coming back. So I don't know. It got
sour in 97 with USAC's officiating. Then no one remembers 98. 99 is just Robbie Gordon running out of fuel that people bring up. So you got a good point. Between 97 through 99, it's just all controversial in one moment that people remember that period.
Right. And then in 2000, the Ganassi came back. 2002, you had the flood of kart guys coming back with Penske and Green and Newman Haas all entering cars. When CART finally said, okay, we'll leave the weekend open for you, everyone realized that they needed Indy to survive because of that exposure. It's the same thing. Like if you look at how many people watch the Super Bowl versus how many people watch a football game on a regular basis. Everybody watches the Super Bowl, but you may not watch a football game all year long. But the Super Bowl has that event status. Yeah. And the same thing would say like the Kentucky Derby. You may not watch a horse race all year long, but the Kentucky Derby draws tons of viewers. Why?
Yeah, they're all
event status. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's a standalone event as far as I'm aware of horse racing. There's not like a league, is there? There's not like you don't get points. The horses get points throughout the year, and then
No.
at the end of the year you have a
They
champion.
have qualification events that are on televised or on horse channels.
Yeah, but but the Super Bowl is a standalone event. Winner takes all scenario, as with the playoffs to a certain extent from most other sports. Although you've got 5 or 6 games, and the World Series and the like. They all have, a goal in a way, and the goal is to crown the champion for this year, which, to my mind, is more important than the champion of a specific race. And I just think it just, I don't know. Yeah.
That's you Europeans don't get it.
Yeah, and the thing about the Super Bowl and the NFL race, the NFL draws still real strong numbers where, like, you think it hits double digits or the high 9s and all of that. Whereas the thing with the IndyCar is you get only a third of the amount. In fairness, the Super Bowl gets like triple, quadruple the amount, but still there's consistency with the NFL ratings. While the quote-unquote down is still real strong compared to all the other disciplines in stick and ball sports. True,
but again, the event status.
Yes,
get the event status gives us that where people will tune in. It's an excuse to have a party too. The Super Bowl, you have a Super Bowl party place. You have an Indy 500 party. You have a Daytona 500 party. You have a Derby party. It's just what people like to do. It's one of those things that people like to gather and share. And to your point, Richard, yeah, there are tons and tons of people who could tell you who won every Indy 500. No idea who win the rest of the races. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just a thing. So, and it's probably not going to change, but hopefully, Roger Penske and his resources will do what they can to build the series. They're working with NBC to extend the TV contract, which
good. I think they do a pretty good job, don't they?
I think they do a pretty good job. Yeah. I mean, it's very heavy on commercials, but I mean, anything on TV is going to be that way, but it seemed like it seemed like they would cut to commercial whenever cars were making pit stops, which for me as a race fan, I think that's pretty important part of the race to see how the pit stops go. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
races are won and lost in the pits, even with the split screen. If I can't hear what's going on, instead I'm listening to what Uber Eats has to offer. Or looking at the emu from the Liberty Mutual. So
I think apparently that's the reason why some people didn't know what happened to Connor at the end, or Pato, and vice versa, from what I've heard. It was because the TV didn't explain it or show it.
No, they really did. No, they kept focused on the battle between Palou and Castroneves, which, to their credit, was the most compelling battle on the track with the most at stake. So, but anyway, so we got a week off, and then we're off to Detroit for the doubleheader.
One more thing.
Yeah, no, please.
Yeah, one more thing. Pit stops was probably the trouble spot. If we talk about Stephen Wilson, Simona had her problems at the very end.
Will Power had the same problem.
Scott McLaughlin. I think the big key reason why he ended up where he ended up is because of that pit penalty.
Exactly, yeah.
So pit road entrance is very, very scarce, and I think that's one thing to keep an eye on for the 106th running next at the Indy 500 next year. Is pit road, because the conditions and all that is one thing, but entering, good grief, there were plenty. Even at Carb that you saw with Marco Andretti's tires looking pretty rough. And speaking of tires, they also had a few moments in qualifying with Jack Harvey and even Helio. More on Harvey, how bad that tire looked, and still was able to put a decent qualifying run. Not great, but decent enough.
Yeah, for the life of me, I don't understand why they don't enter pit road in turn 3.
Yeah.
Because during practice, they enter pit road from turn 3. But on race
day,
I
think the problem you'd have there is if somebody's aggressive trying to enter in pit road and then loses it in what is turn 4, but pit road turn 4, they'd slide up the track into cars that they're going flat out unless they've got a wall there or something. But then that opens another huge area for issues.
Yeah, but we did see the interesting thing was all the people that had the problems in pit lane all had the same issue with the brakes going right to the floor. So what's what do you
also had that moment,
but it's interesting, you know.
What do you think would cause something like that? Is that just something inherent that's gone wrong? A design flaw?
What happens is they boil. The brake fluid in the brake lines boil, and then the air expands, so you get basically a soft brake. Now, what you see a lot of guys do, especially in NASCAR, is, you know, something similar, like Daytona, where you're not using brakes. The only time you use it, you know, if you look at brake disc on a Talladega or a Daytona car, they're like paper thin because you only use them 2 or 3 times, or maybe 10 times during a race, pretty much, you know, coming down pit road and trying to avoid people wrecking in front of you. But they'll actually, when they know they're coming into the pits, they'll actually, if you're in the toe of somebody, you know, they'll actually pump the brake a little bit just to sort of, you know, prime the brake system, because, you know, it could be a problem there. So it'd be interesting to know if any of the guys, you know, did that. Because again, I know they don't use the brakes, you know, during the course of a normal lap. Though it's just pretty much lifting, isn't that? So yeah, that's my guess, is that basically there was getting air in the fluid there, and as soon as that happened, the pedal just goes to the floor, and either that or you got, you know, brake bias issues as well. You know, too much braking on the at the front, and the rear just doesn't want to stop, and it sort of, typically what happens there is the rear overtakes the front, and we saw that on a couple of occasions there.
Yeah, I mean, I just thought it was kind of interesting that it happened to several different cars, you know, when this is something I've not seen a lot in the past, you know, maybe
and aside from one off here and there, but, are Chevys.
I don't think that it would be manufacturer specific. I mean, it could be that
you wouldn't think, yeah.
Typically, what will happen is the teams. Now, I don't know how it works in IndyCar, if it's a spec brake, or if the teams are available to go to, you know, Brembo and some of the other brake manufacturers out there and get their own brake package. But you know, it could be that they say, we want to push it, and yeah, pushed it too far.
That certainly could be it. Yeah.
Well.
So, but the interesting thing while we're talking about this, right? The couple of miscues on pit road, you know, if you watch this race, the interesting thing for me, that there was literally zero driver error on the track. All of the issues happened on either entering the pits, or in Graham Rahal's case, exiting the pits where they didn't get the tire on there securely. But I mean, just a fine race from the whole field. You know, we didn't see anybody get up in the marbles and crack it in the turn, or get too low and spin in front of everybody. You know, the closest we had to anything was that bunched up start, which, you know, Scott Dixon, you know, using the old short track trick there, you know, you know, make everybody check up and then speed away from them, almost look like a mess. But I mean, fine driving all around from the entire field to see Indeed. Nobody really have a serious error.
Yeah, it's like it worked itself out. You saw some strategy, but that was more or less those trying to make something work but didn't. But those who, as you look at the top 10, Ed Carpenter recovered nicely. Sage Karam had a superb run from the last row in 31st. Montoya continues his stride at Indy. Not his strongest month at all, but he still found a way to put it in the top 10. Pagano, it's another one that suddenly he ended up third from essentially, to some aspects, some will say out of nowhere, but it shows you that Penske rebounds nicely, at least for Pagano, that is.
Yeah, because both Power and McLaughlin had problems there. Power ended up way back in the order after his day
was honestly quote unquote over before he even started, when he had to go to pit road during warm-ups. Well, he was in the back row anyway, but he never was there.
No, he never was. And just like Rossi, when he got relegated to the back, you know, we didn't hear from him the rest of the day. You know. Yeah,
I take back the quote unquote over before he started, because we said that about Montoya back in 2015, and he looked what he did. He won it.
Power
was not the case, unfortunately, in his end.
No, and his spin was so late he didn't have enough time to recover from that. And Power had worked his way up to, I believe, 12th or 13th from the back. But after his issue on pit road, yeah, it was game over from there. So now the funny thing is right now I have no idea how much time we left in the show because the timer I set didn't work. So I'm just going
20 minutes approx.
Approx. That's what I said. We got about 20 minutes left. It's just guessing at what time we started. But I do want to because we didn't get to meet last week and have a show. I did, Richard, want to talk about Monaco Grand Prix, which was last week, where we saw some uncharacteristic miscues from Mercedes, and they ended up having a pretty miserable day all around. While Max Verstappen was the benefactor there, who was able to pick up the pieces. Then the other guy with the just horrible luck was Charles Leclerc. So if you'd like to talk about Monaco for a little bit, we'll talk about that because I kind of enjoyed watching Monaco this year. I thought it was a pretty good run.
See if I'm going to remember it. It was good. No, it was a good race. I mean, Monaco is this sort of unique outlier in terms of what people will expect to see from a race. You know, pretty much all on qualifying, and you're going to move one or two positions throughout the weekend or throughout the race. Sorry, but the big talking point really throughout practice on the Thursday, which again is a unique feature of Monaco. They practice Thursday, not Friday, and then Saturday as well, was the resurgence of Ferrari. You know, both Carlos Sainz and Leclerc were very, very competitive, and Leclerc even took the pole. But also the struggles from Mercedes as well. So we go through, we go into qualifying there, and Leclerc ends up getting pole on his first run of the day, and then on his last run, hits the exit of swimming pool on the right hand side, which, as we've seen before so many times, bounces him across the curbs and into the wall on the exit of that chicane, and brings out the red flag and stops everybody's lap for the guys behind him. And Verstappen was on a pretty quick lap there. Ferrari said they checked the car out, didn't need a new gearbox, everything was good. And then on his lap to the grid on the Sunday morning, no go. There was a drive shaft issue on the left-hand side of the car, which was interesting considering the impact was to the right. And I don't know if there's been any more said about it, but the initial feedback was like, oh, that failure was nothing to do with the accident, blah, blah, blah. I struggle to believe that. I think they just missed something, unfortunately. So, yeah, great shame for Leclerc. I mean, if they'd found it, they would have had to replace it, which would have been a penalty anyway. So, yeah, not great. But, something just didn't click for Mercedes this weekend. In the race, Bottas had the issue where his front right nut basically machined itself to the hub.
Yeah, I heard it took them 2 days to get it off.
Well, probably those 2 days were because a day and a half of it was being shipped back to the UK.
Yeah, but I mean, 2 days later, they still couldn't get it off. So.
Yeah. See some. We talked about this a little bit in our sort of offline chat group we have going on. Toto was turning around and partly blaming Bottas for not, for not being perfectly lined up during the pit stop. It's like, no, come on, dude. Toto has this weird way of managing drivers at times. He comes out and makes some very, very strange comments. He's made comments about Bottas on that level. He's made comments about Russell on that level, and some of those things. It's just something's a little. I don't know. Something's a bit strange there with how he maybe tries to stoke Hamilton's ego a little bit, but I don't know. Anyway,
it just seems to me when the horrible pit stop problems happen, it's always Bottas and never Lewis.
Well, if
you look at the race last year, the one that the Racing Point one.
Oh,
you remember that he had a horrible pit stop there, and again that was
As did George Russell.
Well, Russell and Bottas both.
Yeah,
no. Bottas had an issue on the track, and then Russell had the horrible pit stop.
Yeah, and then Toto turns around and says that Russell has to cut out the mistakes. It's like, dude,
yeah,
you screwed him. So anyway, whatever. whatever. Yeah, it is strange how I find it interesting how Toto some of his man management at times, but on the whole, I think he knows what he's doing, doesn't he? But yeah, with Hamilton, it just didn't work. There was something that just didn't click. They tried pitting him early to see if he could get some clean track and put some lap times down, but he ended up being behind Vettel and Gasly and coming in. I think it was 6th or 7th he finished, which in reality, because Leclerc retired and didn't start the race, and Bottas, who had qualified ahead of him, didn't finish. He actually probably dropped in real terms 2 places on the race weekend. Now, again, Monaco's an outlier there. It's difficult to pass. It's difficult to overtake. Could he have maybe regained some of those positions if it had been a different track? Potentially. I'm certainly not riding him off for the championship, that's for sure. But they're going to want to have a good weekend in Baku coming up. Bottas has typically been strong in Baku in the past, so it'll be interesting to see how if Bottas can sort of get that upper hand. And everybody's been saying that for Red Bull to challenge Mercedes and Verstappen to challenge Hamilton, Red Bull need Perez to be up there and causing problems. And on the flip side, Hamilton doesn't need Bottas up there causing him problems. And obviously he didn't score points in Monaco, but if Bottas had, again, that would have been to the detriment of Hamilton. And, as I say, Baku is a track where Bottas is reasonably strong at times. So it'd be interesting to see how that dynamic plays out over the weekend.
Yeah, Baku has a lot of similarities to Monaco.
Well,
when you
it's
talk
half
about
of it's Monaco and half of it's Monza. It's a very strange track, and
it's got a really tight section and a real fast section.
Yeah, it goes around a castle in places where they're pretty much line of stern for 3 or 4 corners there, and then they have this long sweeping straight from that's like 1.5 miles long almost, or 1 mile long, or whatever it may be. And then they've got the first sector of the track is very much like Russia, where you've got a lot of left, almost like that old Phoenix race they had in a parking lot, which is, 90-degree bends. But in all fairness to Baku, it's a little bit more picturesque than a parking lot in Phoenix.
Well, okay. Baku is fake picturesque. I don't know if you ever noticed you ever see some of the photos where they hang the on the buildings along the thing that
yes.
they hang these. It's almost like a drape, I guess. With a print of nicer looking buildings than what's actually behind that to make it look pretty on TV. But the castle is real. But the castle is real,
castle, which Phoenix doesn't have many castles. Last time I checked,
no. Neither did the downtown Detroit circuit either.
That's true. But no, it'd be a good race, and for the first time in his career, Verstappen leads the championship. So it's he's the hunters become the hunted sort of thing, and it'll be interesting to see how they manage that. Obviously Red Bull had that 4-year phase where they were untouchable in many ways, and it'll be interesting to see if they can regain that, and push on with Verstappen there. Perez, hopefully you want to see again him up there in the top 4. As the rear gunner for Verstappen in some ways, creating problems for the Mercedes team, on the strategy. And again, it showed it at Monaco, because Monaco is one of those circuits that the laps are relatively short and the field is relatively compressed in terms of lap time. So that was really hampered Mercedes with Hamilton to try and get him to move up through the pack, because there was never any clear, there wasn't that window that he could fall back into as they did in Spain at the previous race, and to win that race. So, we almost got a glimpse of what Mercedes' struggles would be like if Perez was in play when they were struggling on Monaco, because there wasn't that window of opportunity. So it'll be interesting to see how Mercedes bounce back. Don't doubt it, they will bounce back. I'd love to see Ferrari be competitive again in Baku as they were at Monaco. I don't think they will be. That Monaco result was a little bit of a freak occurrence, I think. But who knows? If they can start creating a bit of a foil and creating issues for the cars around them, then that's brilliant. And Leclerc has been phenomenal in qualifying throughout the season. Putting that Ferrari in 4th place a couple of times where it genuinely doesn't deserve to be, for want of a better word. So, there's a potential that he can, continue that Saturday form at least, and just create some problems for the guys around him, and maybe have like a three-way fight for race wins will be fantastic, and just really what the sport needs as it's
it'd be nice. It'd be nice to see Ferrari get back there in the mix and have instead of a 2-team show, a 3-team show, and then you've got guys like Alpine is improving, and McLaren is forever improving. I think McLaren's gonna be better than Ferrari before you know it.
I say they could win a race.
I think they could win a race. Yeah, absolutely.
And in fact, my bold pick is that I think Norris will get it done.
Right. So
it'd be certainly be deserved, wouldn't it?
Certainly deserved. Yeah. So let's go ahead and pick a winner for Baku. Richard, who you like? Verstappen?
I'm going to go Bottas.
You're going to go Bottas. Louise?
Yeah.
I kind of implied could be. I'm going with Norris, but I think realistically, I think Baku has favored Checo. I think this is going to be Checo's true performance at Red Bull.
All right, so you guys left me Hamilton.
Yeah.
Because,
what's he ever done?
He doesn't win that often, so I'll take Hamilton. Well, we just got
would
a few.
Would this be 99, would it? Or 98?
Perhaps.
Yeah.
I thought I was Mika.
All right, so we've got just a few minutes left. So, Louise, we did have a NASCAR race, the Coca-Cola 600, which I don't know.
Happened.
It happened. Honestly, the whatever package they've got they're running there at Charlotte is not producing a great show.
The PJ1 has done no wonders.
Yeah, but it's certainly produced a good day for young Kyle Larson, who was still mending fences, but dominant win for him. He's never won a race more than 400 miles. So he just decided to skip the 500 mile and go ahead and win the 600.
A mile and a half track too. Remember how he's come short of winning mile and a half tracks. Both of his wins so far are a mile and a half. So he's handling those.
Finally, just like so. But we're off to Sonoma, which is one of my favorites. I always love the NASCAR on road courses, and I'm among those few that just am so pleased we're going to get to see 7 road courses this year.
I'm just happy they're running out of the West Coast again.
Yeah. So Louise, you'll be at the track this weekend. So who do you like for Sonoma then? I know we talked about it a little.
Well,
you already have your trend.
The trends say when Larson's on pole, Truex is going to win, except for that one year when the trend started for Kyle leading the field of the green. Harvick won. But I feel like this is going to be Truex's day. Again, Sonoma's just because Larson wins pole at Sonoma, Truex going to win the race. I don't see that trend ending. Even if Hendrick had been strong, they won the last few races as well. I just feel like Truex and Gibbs are going to get back to their winning ways again and stop Hendrick's recent dominance. Because at the 600, it could have been another 1, 2, 3, 4 finish. Kyle Busch decided to crash that party. And I think you keep an eye on Kyle as well. But Truex, indeed. 3 in a row.
3 in a row. All right. So, Richard, who do you like for Sonoma?
What's Chase Elliott like on road courses? Is he any good?
I don't know. He's won a couple of them, I think.
Yeah, let's go for him, seeing as there's nobody else.
Seeing as nobody else. Yeah, it's hard to pick against Chase Elliott or Truex, who's also dynamite on road courses. So, but you've left me, I'll say Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch, who's pretty good anywhere. Yeah.
We've gone out of the box with these picks, haven't we?
Yeah, I know. Right? We're all playing it a little safe. Yeah. Well, I mean,
come on. I picked Paris to win for Baku. That's not playing it safe.
Fair enough, yeah.
I could have gone with Norris, but
I was gonna say, either way, you're if you were a betting man, that'd be a nice payoff. So, but
it'd be a more reasonable payoff than picking Josh Bilicki at Vegas.
True,
yeah.
All right, so I think we've got enough minutes for just a parting thought from everybody. as we, come away from the month of May, enter the month of June, where we get pretty much for the IndyCars is going to be a bit of a grind. We got several races in June and July, including some double headers coming up. Still don't know the status of where we're going to see another double header, because the race in Toronto was dropped. So
And
the
it sounds like they're making it.
the series indicated that they would add a double header rather than add another race, which makes sense because to get something put together and promoted on short notice is a lot harder than just adding a second Saturday race to an existing date. So, but you think like Mid-Ohio, because you've got the same race promoters there, Green Savory, who that would hopefully help them out. But, I believe they're, then the other one is maybe Road America. So, but they could realistically throw a doubleheader at Gateway, But I haven't heard anything out of the series. I imagine with the 500 behind them, there'll be an announcement coming up soon to fill that missing race in the schedule.
But right now, they're treating it as a 16-round schedule. That's the thing at the moment. The way Social is promoting it right now, they're treating it as a 16-rounder with 10 races. I'm not sure if we're judging it on that. It doesn't sound like they're going to add a race. They're probably
it sounds like maybe whatever they wanted to do fell through. Because both Mid-Ohio and Road America are pretty packed with support races. So it could be that they just couldn't squeeze it into the weekend. So, but we'll see. There'll either be an announcement that something's a doubleheader, or there won't be. So, Richard, you got a parting thought before we get off the air?
No, I think it's a while since we've done one of these, isn't it? I just want to reiterate the statement, the sort of the concept that maybe the 500 is like a victim of its own, or IndyCar is a victim of its own success with the 500 there. We never really had a chance to talk about Austin in the rain, did we, with the Cup cars? And that was an interesting venture.
That was an interesting venture, yeah. And all your conspiracy theorists say that they waited till Chase was leading to throw the red flag, but
good race though. I quite enjoyed it. I thought that was pretty good.
It was a little messy. It was like
watching Bambi on ice, wasn't it?
We literally saw Driven in real life.
Louise, that's funny.
Except we didn't see. Well, Truex nearly went airborne like Max Pappas, but fortunately that didn't happen.
Very fortunate. Yeah, there was some. That was a scary looking wreck.
Yeah, that was for sure.
Yeah, it's the weather doesn't always cooperate, but I believe that was the first points-paying Cup race ran with a significant amount of rain.
Yeah, that is correct.
I know Xfinity's had a couple of good rain races, so have the trucks, but I think the Cup Series have been lucky with the rain on the road courses. So this is one of the first time we've really seen that in action.
Yeah, and not only that, at first red flagged rain short and Cup road course race since Watkins Glen in '92 when Kyle Petty won it.
Kyle Petty is a blast from the past. Yeah, Kyle Petty won a race at Watkins Glen. Wow.
Yep, and let's not forget multiple times at Rockingham.
Yeah, and I know he was pretty good at Rockingham. His old, it was a Mountain Dew car he used to drive, right?
Mountain Dew. Don't you mean Mellow Yellow?
Mellow Yellow, yeah. Yeah, he drove the Days of Thundermobile.
Yeah, which is Coke's version of Mountain Dew, Mellow Yellow.
Yeah, it's stuff I don't drink. So, I did enjoy seeing Brad Keselowski in the Keystone car because that is something I do drink. That's my choice of beer when I'm out of money. Get some Keystone. Oh, I'm letting too much on. So anyway, I guess we are out of time. I think my timer went off. I don't know.
No one needs to know my closing thought.
Go ahead, Louise.
Oh, I was just messing with y'all. But closing thought, I was gonna say when Connor took that race lead, TB didn't do it justice. It did not. It just the thing being there at Indianapolis, everything about it in general just hits different. If I want to get across the writing how I felt about it in my column, not sure when that will be out, because of course that'll be a Sonoma. It just totally hits different. Just the fact that Helio was able to get his 4th win in that fashion. The crowd loved. People said the crowd loved Helio. And back in my mind, I was thinking they do, but they were right. They really, really love Helio at Indianapolis. So it was totally a popular win. Probably one of the more significant moments in motorsports in the last 20 years.
Very memorable race, very historic race. Yeah. So, and it's going to be quite a long time until we see another 4-time winner. I mean, if you look at the crop of guys you have now, the 2 guys with 2 wins are both in their 40s. They certainly could win 2 more. Both Sato and Montoya are capable drivers. Helio could certainly win a 5th. You know, he's obviously the guy in the last 7 months has won an IMSA championship, the 24 Hours of Daytona, and the Indy 500. So this guy ain't done. But yeah, until we see another 4-timer, it could be another 20 or 30 years. So you know, with that being said, you've got some really fantastic 20-something-year-olds who, if they have careers as long as guys like Helio and Tony Kanaan and Ryan Hunter-Ray, will still be around in another 20 years.
That's certainly true.
All right. So, well, with that being said, I guess we are out of time. So I want to thank the Hoobazoo Radio Network. I want to thank iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Google Podcasts, and YouTube. And I want to thank you, Louise. I want to thank you, Richard. I want to thank you folks that listen to us every week. And again, I apologize about us missing last week, but we are back, and we'll be back with you once a week through the rest of the summer as the race for the championships begin to really heat up in all 3 series. So until next week, good night.
WHOOBAZOO, that's Hoobazoo.com.
Enter website, enter website, enter website, enter website.